Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Litter Media Live. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Our special edition today brought to you by Tomlinson Insurance. Our guest is Rhiannon Gill, Executive Director of the Garden Family Advocacy Center. Now, that might not ring a bell. We'll explain to you that it's a name change of an organization that's been around for a number of years. All that with Rhiannon Gill coming up after this.
This is Andy Tomlinson. When ensuring what's important to you, our agents are there when you need us the most. Tomlinson Insurance, for the best coverage at the best cost. Visit us online at tomlinsonins.com to learn more.
Back with Rhiannon Gill, Executive Director of the Garden Family Advocacy Center, what was known as the Ross County Child Protection Center.
Yes, sir.
So why the change?
So, the agency was incorporated in 1997, so we've been serving children of this county for a very long time. Unfortunately, we had a problem with being misrecognized as children's services quite often. But in addition to that, when the agency was originally incorporated, we only saw children from Ross County. But over the years, our services have expanded into the surrounding counties to include everything from Scioto all the way up well into Fayette County as well. So it was really important that we recognize that we're not just serving Ross County, but that we're also serving children from other counties as well as their families who are non-offending members.
Now, has anything changed in the way that the center operates along with the name change?
Absolutely not. Everything is as it used to be. We still operate as a multidisciplinary team with partners throughout our community to include law enforcement, children's services, and medical providers, which is how we receive all of our referrals. And then, of course, we have other services that we provide in addition to the abuse assessments. So we also provide prevention education. We do that for our local schools as well as agencies that work with children directly. And then we also have a supervised visitation program, which gives Ross County and other court systems the ability to have an individual supervise a 1 to 2 hour visit with children that may need that extra supervision. And then we directly reply those things to the court so that they have that information so they can better make a decision on whether a parent or custodian should have a non-supervised visit.
So this is probably something, your services come into play more after they've gone through or children's services?
So generally we get all of our referrals through children's services, law enforcement, and medical providers. So when a child discloses some type of abuse, whether that be physical, sexual, or neglect, they provide that information to us so that we can have the child come in for medical purposes to make sure the body is healthy and safe, that their environment is healthy and safe. And alternatively, it gives those particular individuals the opportunity to be linked with additional services. They may need Medicaid, they may need help with getting clothing or food. So we make sure that those insecurities are also addressed at the same time, but it helps to take some of that load off of children's services and law enforcement in that we are able to provide an assessment that they can then use with medical experts to help to determine, does this child need to stay out of the home? Does this particular alleged perpetrator need to have criminal charges filed against them? So we're here for support.
So where Children's Services has a tax levy that funds much of their operation, how are you funded?
So we are a complete nonprofit, and everything that we do at our agency is provided through donations and grant funding. Our largest grant funds come from the Victims of Crime Act, which is through the federal government. But then we also have local agencies like United Way, as well as our Rotary, and then we have state agencies like the Ohio Network of Child Advocacy Centers and OCTF, which is the Ohio Children's Trust Fund, that provides us with funding as well.
Are there ways that people can contribute to the center financially through donations aside from the way you get your funding?
Absolutely. We are always open to donations. What people have to understand is that when we deal with grant funding, those are restricted funds, which basically means that I may put a grant in that says that this is to pay for the abuse assessment, which basically means that those funds are for salaries and things of that nature. But we always have needs. We have children who like to journal because we do provide child therapy. We have coloring books and crayons. We do provide hygiene kits access to our children. So a lot of times those are things that we don't have the monies for, that we look for different funds that could provide. So if anyone ever wanted to donate to the agency, they would need to make a check out to the Garden Family Advocacy Center. And in doing that, you just provide it to our agency at 138 Marietta Road. We are in Suite E, just on the other side of Herrnstein and Lowe's. In addition to that, we do provide a tax letter at the end of the year. So if you need to use that for tax deductible purposes, we're more than willing to provide you with that, so long as you provide us with your address and information so we can send you a letter so you can deduct those from your taxes.
With, of course, things that change societally, even in our community with homeless population, there's different kinds of abuse with kids that maybe are with families that have no control over why they became homeless, and that happens sometimes.
Absolutely.
Does that fit in any way with what you're doing?
So in all essence, those families would need to be linked with additional services. So we do have a domestic violence shelter as well as a homeless shelter here provided through Community Action Commission here in our area. If a family were to call us with insecurities, we would assist them. We have a victim advocate who would say, okay, listen, these are the different services that you can probably get. Let me connect you with those particular areas so that you're able to get those services. Generally, we would our families come to us through those specific referrals. But if we recognize that there is an insecurity there, maybe there's domestic violence, we do an intake with the family member who brings the child. And one of the questions on that particular survey is, are you safe? Do you feel safe at home? And we have a discreet way of being able to say, okay, let's talk about this. How can we help you? And alternatively, if we needed to, we have the ability to reach out to our counterparts in the community and say, hey, listen, I have a human trafficking case, and I think they need to be out of the home, but they're afraid because their trafficker lives in the home. How can we help them? And we would link them with those services.
Typically, what are the age of the children that you're working with?
So children that come to our agency are generally between the ages of 3 and 18. However, there are certain demographics that we will accept. So children under the age of 3 who've gone to the emergency room, they will get a medical exam. So they have that free of charge because everything that we do from the agency is free. So ultimately, if a child were to be abused, were to go to the ER and would need a follow-up exam, we would be able to schedule that. Then we have children who are above the age of 18 and under the age of 22 who may be on that component with disabilities. So if those are documented disabilities, then we also provide the interviews and assessments for those children as well.
How long has it been since we've had you? It hasn't been a year, has it?
It has, actually. I think last April when we were doing our Prevention Awareness Month.
Yeah. So for viewers that may not have seen last year's interview, give us a little bit of your background.
My background personally?
Yeah.
So I am a registered sexual violence victim advocate with the state of Ohio. I have 25 plus years experience with sexual violence. I also operate our Human Trafficking Coalition here. And my education is in criminal justice, and I'm also a United States Air Force veteran.
Yeah, very good. I always remembered that because my dad was in the Army Air Corps at that time.
Before it was the Air Force,
and then later
yes.
the Air Force after that. So you've been in our community for over
3 years now.
3 years.
Yes,
Wow.
I started back in 22.
Mm-hmm. And you stayed.
I love it. It's my calling. I'll be honest with you. There is not a day that I go through that think this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I fully believe that every child deserves to live a life where they get to grow up and not feel traumatized. But in the event that those unnecessary things happen, I think that the more positive adult interaction that these children can experience, the better off they're going to be. And in the long run, ultimately, substance abuse disorders, mental health disorders, those things generally stem from those adverse childhood experiences that people go through. And if we can impact children and say, hey, listen, I get that this happened to you and you didn't do anything to deserve it, and your body is unique and you deserve to be safe and respected, and this is how we can help you. So I would say that if there was a child out there and they're not sure where to go, they're not sure how to start, they can contact our office as well, and we will direct them in the right direction.
Due to the fact that, even when it was known as the Child Protection Center, but now the Garden Family Advocacy Center is the new name, you serve other counties, as you pointed out earlier. you must be doing something that's groundbreaking for this to be centered here in Ross County, serving all these other counties. What is that?
Absolutely. So we actually follow standards of accreditation through the National Children's Alliance, which is through the state of Ohio as well. So the Ohio Network of Child Advocacy Centers out of Columbus operates and functions with roughly 44 child advocacy centers in the state of Ohio. Those particular standards are routed in that multidisciplinary approach, making it possible that children who are traumatized aren't continually re-traumatized. And we do everything in the state of Ohio for medical purposes, which ultimately means that when we have an interview, when we do a medical exam, we have experts that can testify on that child's behalf and hopefully reduce the possibility that they're going to be re-traumatized.
Yeah. Of those counties outside of Ross that you serve, what's the farthest away that you have to?
So we go, we've covered Scioto, Pike, Ross, Fayette, Pickaway. On occasion, we cover Highland. We also service Athens as well. And then there are children that come to us from Meigs and Gallia.
Okay.
And the closest CAC from us to them would be Nationwide Children's. So if you can imagine that if it's going to take 2 or 3 hours for the assessment process and it's going to take you 2 hours to drive to Columbus and 2 hours back, you've taken your whole day to address a situation that could be done in just a matter of a couple of hours in a setting that's small, that is kid-friendly. When you come to our office, we put you in a private room so that you're not running into other people that you may or not know. We give you snacks and drinks and education across the board, and we make it an experience that is helpful and trauma-informed.
How many on staff?
So we have 9 staff members that are there regularly, and we have 4 doctors as well as a pediatric SANE nurse. Our pediatric SANE nurse has been there since the inception of the building, as well as one of our physicians. So our doctors are very familiar with child abuse and the dynamics that go behind it. And everything that we do, like I have said before, is trauma-informed. So we understand it doesn't matter if you're green, yellow, and blue with purple spots. We are going to treat you with dignity, tolerance, and respect. We're going to help you through this process and make it that much easier for you because we understand this process is not easy.
Rhiannon, anything you want to talk about that I haven't brought up concerning the Garden Family Advocacy Center, its new name, and where you go from here?
So I would love for everyone to know that April, which is approaching more quickly than I would like to think, April is Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month, as well as Sexual Violence Awareness Month. We will have a calendar posted very soon of several activities that we're going to have that week, as well as the very first week we're doing our kickoff. We're going to have a multidisciplinary team awards breakfast, which is something we haven't done in the past, where we are going to recognize members of our multidisciplinary team for all of the counties that we service and provide them with awards that we're going to refer to as a Children's Champion Award. We're also going to be doing a Connie Gosden Award, which is going to be routed out of Pickaway for the first group, but she was a woman who advocated for her granddaughter from start to finish to the day she passed away this past summer. She literally took her granddaughter and got her through the court system. She had been trafficked, got her therapy, supervised visitation, all the services that our agency provide this particular young lady covered across the board. And her grandmother was a huge proponent for what we do. So we thought it was only best to honor her memory and do an award that is going to be specific to somebody who goes above and beyond to help a child get through this particular traumatic experience.
So many times we've heard in recent years how many times grandparents are having to raise kids, and unfortunately, many of those times, grandma or grandpa stepping in because there was a situation that wasn't good, in the home.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we live in a time that's very different from when you and I grew up. Children are constantly exposed to things that they don't necessarily want to be exposed to, that dramatically affect how they're going to grow up. And that's why it's so important that we utilize the services of a child advocacy center, because we know across the board how to handle it. We do have 2 child therapists at my office. We have a full-time and a part-time. One of my child therapists has been practicing for more than 15 years in the child abuse arena across the board. And we have a male and female. We also have the ability to have an additional person if needed for individuals who have maybe a teenage situation where they need somebody a little bit more mature to handle the situation. So it's really important to know that we are huge proponents that those adverse childhood experiences can be overcome and that mental health is truly important.
Good to see you again, and
Always
stay
a
in
pleasure.
touch. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Again, Rhiannon Gill, Executive Director of the Garden Family Advocacy Center, formerly known as Ross Child Protection Center. She's been our guest today on this special edition of Litter Media Live, brought to you by Tomlinson Insurance. I'm Mike